call to order the regular meeting on Monday, March 24th, 2 p.m. And
stand for the invocation, please. Heavenly Father, as we come to you in prayer, we'd like to thank you for this day. We'd like to thank you for all your many blessings and allowing us to be here today to do the business of the county of Stokes and the people of Stokes. We ask for your wisdom and your guidance in everything that we say and do, and it's in your name that we ask these things. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I get approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Amber, we'll
At this
go
time,
do the public comments.
we'll open the floor for public comments, and the first individual to speak is Bryant Lindsay.
If I may, I would like to, I didn't come with a computer, but I did come with materials, and if I could make certain that each of you had a set of the materials, I'd be very appreciative. I have one for Amber. Oh, you need to get at least one of those back for me. My name is Bryant Lindsay, and I'm have the privilege of being the inaugural president of the Over Mountain Victory, North Carolina State Trail. Because of my involvement with that, I have been very much involved with America 250 North Carolina. I don't know how much at this point you all have been involved with it, but because of my background and because of the background of my folks who came from Carroll County and Patrick County and subsequent to that Henry County and so forth, I've been following America 250 NC very closely. What I came to you today about was to see if you would not want to involve yourselves, and I'm not seeking money from you. In fact, what I want to do is to tell you about $10,000, which I hope you have not missed out on, that you may still be eligible for if your legislators are willing to consider that. So I brought, I know your time is very limited, so I was figuring 3 minutes, and then hopefully at the end, if I stay, we can have further discussion. You might even decide that you want to do something today, and I have seen county commissions before modify their agendas at certain points and say, okay, we want to consider something. The first item you see in the little packet that I gave you is a map as of yesterday of North Carolina's counties, which have counties committee that have been recognized by the state. This has changed markedly since the last gubernatorial election. At that time, there were only about 36 of North Carolina's counties that had county committees, but once, after the election and with a lot of activity recently, there are 75 of North Carolina's 100 counties that have county commissions, that has been kind of crucial in the past. We didn't discover we discovered a lot of counties along the Over Mountain Victory, North Carolina State Trail that had never been really informed about the availability of funding, and what the state essentially said, and the former Governor Cooper, was that every county that established a county committee could have $10,000. They didn't need to match that. They did need to appoint a committee and to make certain that they would have somebody at the county to provide at least some oversight pertaining to that, and then the folks on that county committee could use that funding, however they felt, it should be used in order to facilitate celebrations, or other activities that pertained to the first America 250 event, which would be July the 4th, 2026, which is, of course, very close. What has happened is, since a lot of counties came in late, they changed their deadlines, and we're actually past the last deadline that they gave for forming those committees and still getting $10,000. But my reading of the legislature and some of the key legislators is that that could be subject to change. And so I still think that there would be a premium involved in terms of us. And since my background is close enough to yours, I'm going to say us. For you to have a county committee. As you see here, I circled Stokes. All of your surrounding counties now have county, committees. That doesn't extend to Virginia, but some of those are, have come on very, very late. And for example, if you look down at Davidson County and Ryan County, those came on, just like, a couple of weeks ago. I know because I was present at one session where it was adopted, and, I was involved in the others. So I wanted you to take under consideration that you might take the minimal steps that would be necessary either today or as soon as possible thereafter, subject to whether or not it makes sense to you to do more. I've used my 3 minutes. Okay. I have other materials here. If I could talk with you afterwards, I'd be very appreciative.
I'll be happy to talk to you.
I appreciate it very much. We could have spent, 15 seconds at least on the other materials, but felt like it was necessary to get at least that far into the discussion. Thank you very much.
All right, the next individual is Glenn Knox.
Becoming a habit. Good afternoon. I'd like to know how many bonds have been taken out on Stokes County by the commissioners and what collateral was used to secure these. That includes when the bonds will come due, what was agreed to, the conditions, and the payback for these. This information should be posted on the Stokes County website and every time any additional bonds are secured. I ask because we have seen an unprecedented increase in our tax valuation, which has occurred in other jurisdictions across the U.S., and the amount of our tax increase, around 40%, has been the exact amount that is the basis for other jurisdictions raising additional money based on these new valuations of tax base, which has been proven in other places and the foundation of these bonds. Please have this information posted on the Stokes County website in good faith by your next scheduled meeting. This information should be readily available and for use, and adding it to the webpage is just a matter of publishing the data. This request is being recorded. You should be able to play it back to hear any questions you may have on it. One additional comment. Using any of your time after public comments to comment on social media posts when the posting party can't respond is childish. If you wish to actually engage in public debate with your citizens, I suggest you get an account and respond there. Thank you.
Candace Lloyd.
Good afternoon. I'm here to address the proposed Stokes County Animal Control new ordinances and advisory board bylaws. I would like, as a public citizen, I've been attending these meetings for the last 2 years. I used to be the chair of that board. In December, this issue was brought up to the advisory board to talk about new ordinances. It was not done. In January, the meeting in January, Mr. Reeves was not at that board meeting, so there were no new ordinances presented to this board or approved by this board. But we have ordinances here now that no one on that board has seen or approved. And also a couple of things about the proposed ordinances. Tethering, that we tried to get a tethering ban approved 2 years ago, that went nowhere. And this new proposed ordinances, it goes down from tethering a dog from 10 feet to 7 feet, which means that female dogs that are tethered outside in heat will get pregnant. They have even less room to get away from a male dog, which will lead to more pregnant female dogs, which will lead to more pet overpopulation in our shelter, which this past year there were 1,101 animals euthanized at the shelter. We don't need any additional animals going into this shelter. I would like to concede the rest of my time to Kathleen Edwards.
Kathleen Edwards.
Good afternoon. I'm here to discuss the proposed changes to the animal control ordinance. I just became aware of this this morning at 10:30, but I have looked through the proposed language and compared it to the current language. These changes make no sense. I'll just briefly go over what I noticed on a first reading. I haven't gotten into the breeder fees, haven't gotten into the things that have to do with the civil and criminal penalties yet, but I did look at the definitions for water and shelter and for tethering. We went from the current ordinance requires 4 walls for a doghouse, must consist of 4 walls, a roof, and a floor in good repair. What Tommy is proposing has a minimum of 3 sides. 3 sides do not turn out wind and rain. Doesn't mention a roof, doesn't mention a floor. So that is not going to create a manner that is water and wind resistant if this shelter, which he wants to define as adequate, only has 3 sides. And it doesn't state roof or floor. So that's wrong. We used to have a definition for adequate water, which said constant access to a supply of clean, fresh water, provided in a sanitary manner, meaning a clean bowl or bucket. And in near or below freezing temperatures, the water must be changed frequently so as to prevent freezing. All of that was taken out of the ordinance, all of it. We used to have, or we currently have, I should say, a provision for shade other than that which is provided by the doghouse, because as everyone knows, in the summertime, if a dog is in the sun and there's no natural or artificial shade, it's hotter in the doghouse than it is outside the doghouse. So if the doghouse represents the only shade that dog can get to, and the dog has to get into the house to get out of the sun, the dog is going to be going into a hotter place to try to get out of the sun, and that's wrong. So Tommy, for some unknown reason, took away the shade provision. Additionally, I'm scrambling here. Under tethering, the proposed language says attaching an animal to a stationary object. And it says by means of a chain, cable, rope, or similar device. And that language is no good, because I've witnessed dogs who have been tied outside with speaker wire and dogs who've been tied outside with phone cables. And those things can get wrapped around the dog's appendages and cause serious injury if the dog were to lunge at a person, a squirrel, or another dog. And let's see, trying to find my notes on, oh, okay. I'm missing a section. Just bear with me a second. I have to scroll ahead to get to it. Okay, here we go. This is the current ordinance. No tow chains or logging chains are permitted to chain a dog outdoors. That's what it currently says. That was taken out, and that needs to stay in. No, you saw the chain that Lori Smith brought and put before the podium. That dog was on a 45-pound chain. That dog was later euthanized by Tommy, and that dog was 100% adoptable. Shannon Shaver, who used to be our county manager, has videos of that dog interacting with shelter staff. That dog was absolutely adoptable, and Tommy decided to kill it. Anyway, no logging chains, no towing chains, that needs to stay in the ordinance. He also took out that no more than one animal may be tethered to one restraint device at one time. That needs to stay in, because people will put more than one dog on one restraint, and then those dogs will get tangled, and it can cause serious injury to the animal. Okay, we have in currently in the ordinance, no person shall tether an animal outdoors during extreme weather, or during periods of driving rain, tornado, hurricane, or periods when a severe weather warning has been issued for the area where the animal is located. I personally have knowledge of a dog who was chained to a tree. The tree fell on the dog, and the dog later died of its injuries. The owners did not take it to the vet, and the dog died. Also, a third-generation plumber in Stokes County had a dog on a chain. He went to church. A storm came up. The tree that the dog was chained to was struck by lightning, and it went down the chain and killed the dog. And when they got home from church, the dog was charred and deceased. So dogs don't need to be chained outside in driving rain, tornadoes, hurricanes, or periods of severe weather. Tommy took out the part about no person shall tether a puppy under the age of 6 months. That's just unreasonable to tie a puppy under the age of 6 months outside by a chain. That's unreasonable under any circumstances. He took out the provision that no tethering device itself shall be placed around the animal's neck. That means there needs to be a collar in place. There needs to be, the thing restraining the animal should not be directly around the animal's neck. For some reason that got removed in his proposed language. The minimum enclosure sizes were taken out. We need minimum enclosure sizes because people in trailer parks will put their dog in a transport carrier and go to work for 13 hours, and that dog will be in there unable to get away from snow, high heat, can't go to the bathroom. And unless we have enclosure size minimums in the law, then we're allowing people to do just whatever they want to do with a dog and leave it in as small a container as they choose to, and that's wrong. That's clearly wrong. So that needs to stay in the ordinance. The requirement, the provision that excrement be removed from a dog enclosure, why would anyone take that out of the ordinance? That's common sense. Now, Tommy's favorite thing is to say, oh, it's not enforceable, it's not enforceable. There are entire states that have these provisions. Not counties, entire states. They are enforceable. They are complaint driven. If someone calls and says there's a violation of our current ordinance, which is a reasonably good ordinance for a county of our size and as rural as we are, and for the education level here, it's a pretty good ordinance. I disagree with gutting this ordinance, and Tommy's proposed ordinance is 31 pages. 31 pages. The current ordinance is 14 pages. So I've not been able Since a red line version was not supplied for the public to review over this weekend, I have to go through these two documents word for word and see what he put in and what he took out. Now, all of this is being done for his own convenience, apparently. But I'd like to read this one page to you and then I'll sit down. No single person should be permitted to make radical sweeping changes to an ordinance which is going to affect over 45,000 people. Not only are the proposed changes unethical, they are cruel, small-minded, and have no basis in reason. There's no reasonable justification to remove animal welfare provisions from our ordinance. The citizens of this county have not been made aware of the proposed changes. The changes were not brought to the attention of the Animal Control Advisory Board. And because the proposed ordinance is more than twice as long as the current ordinance, I haven't even had time to get through it all the new language yet. It took decades of research, study, cooperation, advocacy, and compromise to get to the ordinance that we have now. Decades of work by people who looked things up, who presented things, who argued for things, who showed proof of suffering. We brought you a 1,200 person petition. A petition signed by 1,200 people. That's rude. That is so rude. Dogs maintained outdoors on chains year-round are already miserable enough. Why on earth would anyone want to make their lives even more unbearable? Why? These changes will not only negatively affect dogs, they will negatively affect anyone who lives in earshot of their suffering. Dogs on chains are psychologically damaged through unrelenting boredom, lack of exercise, and absence of socialization. Chained dogs are more likely to bite and are less likely to receive adequate veterinary care. The majority of dog bite victims are children. I ask that the Board of Commissioners invite input from the Animal Control Advisory Board and from the citizens of this county before moving forward with any changes to the existing ordinance, which for 4 years has served the people and the unfortunate victims of perpetual chaining in Stokes County. Thank you.
Joanne Sylvia, I apologize if your last name's incorrect.
Thank you for giving us the time to speak. I'm also speaking about the requested changes to the animal control ordinance, and I'll be relatively brief. But one of the things I was thinking as I heard about this is that I was thinking that any request to change existing ordinances would go, and I'm requesting that they would go before the advisory board. And also that there should be a public hearing. I would just think that would be reasonable, and that would be my request. Reducing protection for animals would be going backwards in time to a time that is more inhumane, a time that is more cruel, with more cruelty and neglect. Going backwards with less protection would reflect poorly on our county. Whether you agree with it or not, there is a trend for dogs and cats in particular to be considered more like family than they used to. I'm asking that we move forward, not backwards, in caring for animals, to be more protective and not less protective, to make the existing ordinances stronger and not weaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our public comment section.
Okay, now we'll go to our comments from our commissioners. Sonja, you want to
I'd
continue?
rather not go first this
Okay.
time.
All right,
Thank you.
I don't have no problem going first.
go first.
Go for it.
Well, it's great to see everyone, and I just got a text saying we're not live streaming.
IT's working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
all
still
right.
recording either way. So even if it's uploaded afterwards,
Okay.
it's, yeah.
Just letting you be aware.
Thank you.
But you welcome.
Yeah.
It's great to see everyone today. Well, I was gonna say everyone watch the live stream, but that ain't happening right now. But anyway, it's great to see everybody. Had a busy weekend in our county. Some of you may know. Had a big fire up at Sandy Ridge, about 270 acres. I had the privilege of helping those folks. And I told somebody yesterday, the fire department in this county is a brotherhood. We go anywhere we're needed. And I saw a big outpouring love of the community and surrounding communities, from food, money, everything else to these departments. And it's great to see that kind of support from our county, from all over. I would like to send a special prayer out to Bone and Buster Robinson. Buster lost his wife a little bit ago, which is Bone's mother. So I'd like to send a special prayer out to those folks today. But God comfort that family today. But again, thank you again for being here. That's all I got.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you here. First of all, I'd like to start. I went this morning to a ceremony ribbon cutting session for a park that Forsyth County has just opened. It's called the J. Dudley Watts Jr. Forsyth County Blues Lake Park. And it's right on the county line, just off 65 at 7455 Craig Road, which is just after you turn left at the Dollar General there. And so I'd really recommend everybody go check it out. It's got a floating fishing dock, and there's 3 phases to it. The first phase is completed, and they have some funding toward the next phases, but it'll certainly be a great resource for Stokes County folks as well as other people in the region. Okay, the other thing I want to do is I have my no spin zone as a reminder. Anything I say in my no spin zone is my opinion based on my observations of the facts. I'd like to start by warning folks about a new website that somebody sent me called realstokescounty.com that appears to have been created by Mr. Glenn Knox, since it has his email address on it. From a couple of the first posts on the site, it appears to be a new tool to harass, bash, and discredit the 3 commissioners on this board who will be up for re-election in next year's primary. It also appears to be an extension of the Stokes County Republican Party Facebook page, which is also used for similar purposes, where some party members are allowed to make posts and others are censored by having their posts removed. Let me provide a couple of examples to support my point on why this website was created. He's got one thing under the heading of what are Stokes County Commissioners up to now. Under this section, Mr. Knox states that because he couldn't find the campaign photos that our group used on the web, we must be involved in creation of the flyer that was sent out by a political action committee. His logic is a real stretch, since our campaign photos have been widely distributed to anyone who asked for them, especially our supporters. It's also worth noting that there are no restrictions on who candidates give their campaign photos to. Our campaign photos have been on cards, in the newspaper, social media sites, and my campaign photo is right on the front page of my website bio. I'll state one last time that our group had nothing to do with the creation, funding, or distribution of the joint campaign card that was mailed out during the last election. The second one, under this heading of who is the Conservative Stokes Committee. This post is a second illustration of the intended purpose of the new website to bash and discredit the 3 commissioners. And if you look at the site, the title of it, or on the posting on it, is who is the Stokes County Conservative Committee. It starts out with a little paragraph about something called a Republican Conference. It was held on March 2nd, which is a Sunday. And things people were doing there, I'm not sure who the accusations are pointed at exactly, but I didn't attend anything on the 2nd of March on a Sunday, any political meetings, and I don't know that the rest of us did either. Then it has a list of people that are in this committee and their contributions. I guess that's just straight off of the public records that the election folks have down in Raleigh or wherever, of donors. And then the last thing, which is what really concerned me, let me read it. Part of it says, talks about us being financed, I guess, by these people in the committee. And then it says, with Mark Black purchasing the old Francisco School complex for a fraction of its worth, a sale slid through by Commissioner Morris. We will be getting the data soon. What's his plan? Well, he was able to sell that property for more than he paid, so we can add as well as anyone else. The last part of this post is what is most concerning to me. It pertains to Mr. Mark Black's acquisition of the closed Francisco Elementary School. Mr. Knox's post says that Mr. Black purchased the old San Francisco School for a fraction of its worth. A sale slid through by Commissioner Morris. Then it says he was able to sell the property for more than he paid, as I just read off of the post. First, when Mr. Black acquired the property, I was not a commissioner, I was a county manager. The county commissioners at the time unanimously approved the transfer of the property through a grant program developed jointly by the Francisco community and the county staff to include the county attorney. Commissioner Jimmy Walker was instrumental in getting Mr. Black to finally accept the grant. Let me give you a brief history of exactly what happened, which will show how Mr. Knox has twisted the facts. The school was closed, which devastated the community. After that, the county had $25,000 per year budgeted just to keep the empty buildings usable. The community begged the commissioners not to sell the property on the public square for fear it would become a hay barn or something worse. Many meetings were held between the community and the county staff to produce a better alternative that would add value to the community. A local grant program was developed and received the necessary approvals, legally and otherwise, and the community convinced Mr. Black to acquire the property. The grant required that Mr. Black invest several $100,000 in the facility and to provide a specified number of full-time jobs for a specified period and at a specified wage level. He met all those requirements and it was verified by the county attorney. Mr. Black has not sold the property, though he purchased about 15 acres of adjoining land and recently donated that land to the county for a community park in Francisco. He is now in the process of converting the school buildings to house multiple retail businesses, which will be a valued addition to the local community. One new business is already open, and I think one of the new businesses is going to be a new restaurant. The grant agreement and associated discussions on the transfer of the school are all documented in the commissioner meeting minutes from the period, and Mr. Black has proven to be a generous supporter of the Francisco community. I hope these two examples serve as a clear illustration of the true purpose of the new website and how they play loose with the facts to fit their own narrative. It should be noted that the last time similar accusations were made against me, the previous commissioners, and Mr. Black, Joe Turpin pulled the minutes reflecting the facts and posted them on the Stokes County Republican Party Facebook page. His post was quickly removed by Mr. Knox's associates in the Republican Party who censor those fellow Republicans they don't like or agree with. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Fred?
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Board of Commissioner meeting. First of all, just to touch on what Commissioner Barney Castle was talking about with the fires in Stokes County. Thank goodness and thank God that at least I haven't heard of anybody being hurt or anything like that. And I think property damage has been at least minimized when it comes to structures, correct?
Correct.
And I just want to jump on his back and say it's really great that the whole community comes together, not just the Stokes County community, but I know Rockingham also provided a big resource. And then our forestry service, I know from the state, also were in the air and also on the ground. So that is one thing that, you know, I think we can all come together on and say, hey, you know, we live in a good county. We got good equipment overall for our fire apparatuses. And the only thing we're trying to improve upon is volunteers and just to get fire stations. So especially during the week to where they're available countywide to respond where they're needed. The proposed animal control ordinance is, you know, we're going to talk about it today. I know, speaking for me, I mean, I'm not putting anything to action today for a vote. So, you know, there will be opportunity to at least, you know, listen to what other people are at least saying. And maybe we'll get more clarification too when the presentation comes. Just a reminder on the tax revaluation, you know, a tax rate has not been set yet. So I know our manager is diligently working with staff, you know, to come up with different scenarios. We've got to continue to move forward here in Stokes County. And I just want to say that there has been a lot of change in Stokes County in the past 2 years. And now, you know, some people can say, well, it's for the worse. And that's okay. Everybody has an opinion. But I think that the people working here in Stokes County and the ones that have been here for a little while that have any kind of using county services, I think that they have noticed the difference. And as we continue to go through the process of actually having policies, revising policies, the sense that it's not political and that it's what is best practice, and it's been going on in a lot of other counties in the state of North Carolina. We're trying to move as fast as we can, but also we want to move where it makes sense and make sure that we're not missing anything. So that being said, I just want to thank the manager and the staff, because they are pumping out a lot of work, and it's not something that you just come up in a day. And I want to thank our legal staff too, because I know it's kind of putting some pressure on our legal staff to you know, make sure that everything is right, you know, liability wise and personnel right wise. So I appreciate that. Everybody is contributing, I think, to improving the working conditions and to improving of making our services that we provide to our residents and visitors that are efficient and effective and as least costly as we can be, but still providing the services that are mandated by the state and the federal government to some of the thing. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two things I'd like to comment on. The first is that we have entered into a contract with ETC Institute from Olathe, Kansas to do our community survey. We plan to spend about the next month putting together a list of questions and formatting that survey instrument with the idea that we would have it out for input from the community in the month of June, maybe extending into July. And ultimately, we want to have results by about the 1st of September. So we can use those results to inform our planning process for the next year. The second is that you probably recall that at your last meeting I gave you a quick update on our budget review process, and that I let you know that we had completed our reviews of the departmental level requested budgets, and I commented that it looked like we were going to come in a little bit better than we had previously been forecasting on the expenditure side, and probably also on the revenue side as well as a result of changes to the fees and charges schedule. One quick update on that, the sum total of the cuts that we made from departmental level budgets was $2.8 million. Before anybody gets excited about that, one way or the other, I just want to caution you that the majority of those cuts were on line items where we have historically over budgeted and have not spent that money. So we're going to have to make some corrections to our budget to actual variance assumptions that are built into the 5-year model as a result. I expect that over the longer term, over that 5-year horizon, the impact of that accounting change, if you will be minimal. It probably still will be positive, but it won't be huge. And on the revenue side, we do have the updated fees and charges schedule recommendation for your review. Amber will be presenting that later on in your meeting, and I think she will also be giving you some initial feedback on what we think the impact is going to be on the revenue side. That concludes my comments.
Did forget you. I used to start with
That's
you.
okay. Thank you for letting me go later. I had to get my thoughts together. Piggybacking on about the fires, thank you to all the fire departments that responded to the fires, and our community members who came out with all kinds of donations to the fire department, and all the people that, responded to the fires, and that we really appreciate all that. And I wanted to say that. Also send my condolences to the Robertson family with the loss of Barbara. Didn't know that until you made mention of that. I also want to make us aware that we'll be getting more information about this later, but Germington School is having their 100th year anniversary of that school. A celebration on Friday, April the 11th from 5:30 to 7:30. The community is invited to that. And South Stokes is doing one the next day on Saturday the 12th from 11 to 2. So also, I just want to briefly comment on something. I had a number of people contact me regarding our comment time and how it is getting too political. I know Amber reads a statement at the beginning, usually before the comment time, that asks people to refrain from or discourages political speeches. And I don't think it's right for us to sit up here and make political speeches. If it was something that was said on Facebook or the internet, I think we either need to ignore it or address it there. If you can't do that, I just don't think this is the time or the place to do that stuff. We have a comment time. We asked people who are commenting to us to limit it to 3 or 4 minutes, and I think we should try to do the same. I think that's as a courtesy, we should limit our time to 3 to 4 minutes. Should be plenty of time to address that kind of stuff. I think it's a waste of the public's time and our time when things can be addressed elsewhere. I'm not saying don't address it if you feel necessary, but using a position up here as your bully pulpit is not right. It's a bad look for our whole board. If you want to go to the executive committee meetings, the men's club, the ladies club, there are avenues to address political things. I just don't think if it's not county business, we need to address it here. You address the school, that's county, that was something I understand was a county issue, so I get that. But my question is, who developed the local grant program that you referred to?
The county, the community, the county attorney, and some people from the state also approved it right time. You remember?
I wasn't sure because I wasn't. I think that
I'm sure we had to get some approval from the state to.
I wasn't in on that, privy to that when that was going on, so that was my question. But that's all I have. Thank you for coming today.
Well, since I hadn't said nothing in 3 meetings.
You got 3 minutes.
Welcome, everybody. I want to thank the King Chamber for putting on their event Thursday night. It was well attended, very good. And congratulations to Wantco because the first time in their history they finally have a town hall. And it was a long time coming. The other thing, real quick, since I live in Danbury, that I've noticed a lot of people come up to me that are from Walkertown. And they're coming, they live in Walkertown, they're coming up here to get away from their town. It's alarming. And all you gotta do is go down there. I mean, it's growing, they're alarmed at the growth. The roads are all tore up, and Walkertown is not that far from Stokes. I read an article that North Carolina, by 2035, will be the 7th largest state in the union, population-wise. And if that don't scare you, or if y'all want all this mess, welcome it. That's up to y'all, because I won't be around to see it. But you need to pump the brakes. I was tickled that King actually said no and pumped the brakes. Wantco's doing a good job. We need smart, small growth. The other part of that article was most of it will be people moving here, which is contribute to all the real estate values going up and everything else. So I don't see anything changing anytime soon, I'm afraid to say. But they were complaining about these huge developments in Walkertown with housing, and we're next because the same thing's going on in Stokesdale. So we need to look at that and address, or our future is going to get ugly.
Well, when you have the interchange, you got to think. I'm not saying I want King to be the next Clemens or Kernersville or Walkertown. I'm not saying that. But I think it's got to be smart. But I think it's inevitable because you've got Rural Hall. One exit down is that big interchange with all them highways coming together right there, and it's from Rural Hall to Pilot Mountain is probably going to be in for it. I'm not saying it's got to be smart. I agree with you on that. But
and the other thing is, most of this increase is going to be 65 and up. So anyway, I wish I had some good news. Oh, thanks, Wayne.
Oh, you're welcome.
When you're sitting in your easy chair watching basketball and you get a text about the fire, it makes you feel guilty. And then you hear and see I saw everything positive on all 3 TV stations. It was all good, everybody working together. So that shows you that this county can work together. They sure do like to fight too. Anyway, let's get on to me. All right, conflict of interest. Before moving any further, any board member have a conflict with any of the items on the agenda for today, or one that might be perceived as a conflict of interest? Nope. Consent agenda, a motion to Approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion agenda. Stuart, you're up. Excuse me for a minute. I thought I skipped something.
Good afternoon. Hope everybody's doing good. So with the DOT bridge project that's coming here pretty soon, was down there kind of looking and figuring and realized there may be some liability with people being in there and the construction work going on. So I reached out to Mary and Powell with NCACC, our insurance group, and had a meeting with her, and she kind of agreed with us that yeah, definitely there could be some issues, liabilities, probably need to, kind of keep her closed down for maybe this summer on the one side while the bridge project is taking place. I also reached out to OSHA, and they told me the same thing. Probably in the best interest from the county to keep that side closed. I know the DOT, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do. I've heard different things. I think they're going to tear down part of it, build 2/3, and come back and tear down some more. But with the traffic, and everybody knows how bad the traffic is during the summer and how many people's down there, we felt like if we keep the one side closed where the parking lot is, leave the lower side open for the time being, kind of see how everything goes. We felt it might be in the best interest, keeping everybody covered. Want to see what the board's kind of thinking on that and the thoughts of everyone.
They close both sides. I mean, I don't.
Well, that's went through my mind, but I thought.
Wouldn't people just be able to walk under the bridge? Or?
Yes, and that went through my mind, and I thought, well, I would at least try to give people the benefit of the doubt. We'd keep the lower gate closed coming to the ball field, put up signs. Then if we noticed people flooding that way and kind of getting up around there, then we could close both sides. But I just didn't want to do it to begin with. I thought we'd at least give them the benefit of the doubt. But I feel like I know what's going to happen, but I was at least trying.
I commend you for trying, but I think people will try to take advantage of that. It's with all that. We just need to discourage all that extra traffic while that's going on.
The clearing crew has already cut one tree on our guardrail and one of our gates. So there's already been some damage, but we're sorting that out right now.
Repeat that.
The clearing crew, clearing the trees,
right.
They cut a tree that fell on part of our guardrail and damaged it and one of our fence or one of our gate.
Okay.
One of our gates.
It won't hurt my feelings if you end up having to close it all for now. I mean, it is a liability.
I've not set a specific date yet. I was trying to see exactly when they were going to start. I know they were saying in February, but they've kind of started clearing, but they haven't started any bridge work yet, as of yet. So.
Did you notice the Smith Road truck parked in Danbury over the weekend?
I did not.
I was wondering if they brought that down and left it, but it was kind of odd. It's sitting right there above our church, Danbury, that little parking lot there, where the beauty shop used to be.
I hadn't seen it.
I didn't even notice when I come over here whether it was still there.
I hadn't even been that way today.
So you don't have Smith and Rose input on this yet?
No. All the communication I've had has just been strictly with DOT.
Okay.
And I'm assuming Smith Road is going to do the contract or do the work.
I'm assuming too.
I'm assuming. I don't know. They've not told me who the contractor is or who they picked.
They were a low bidder. They were low bidder. I have a question. Okay.
Is are you talking about keeping that one side open so the tubers can come up the steps and be able to get in and out of there?
It would it would be that lower side where the furnace is.
Yeah, and there's steps going down where the tubers come, right?
Yeah.
In and out.
Yeah. And see, I don't know how that's going to work. Tubers actually going under the bridge while they're working on it. I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns that I don't know about. So I'm trying to
So
Just think about it.
basically,
Yeah.
It's not a lazy river.
Yeah, so
it's not a lazy river.
I feel like when they get that far, then there's no turning back. But I feel like once they get that far to the lower furnace at the steps, if they go below that, then there's no, I don't know where you would pick those folks up at.
It's
I just know from a county standpoint, I feel like we would have, could be some issues from our part if the,
There's just no way that they can, with what we've seen traffic-wise in there in the weekends and stuff in the summer, it's already a nightmare. And you add to that the construction and the bridge and all the stuff going on, it's just, you're asking for trouble right there.
What's your take on that?
I think Stuart's recommendation is good because there's potential liability there.
Yeah.
I mean, if people,
Test it, and if it doesn't work,
Well, I think the county needs to do what it can to minimize the risk of any accidents
Absolutely.
construction.
So at that point, who would be liable, the county or the contractor?
That's something that
Gets
needs to be
in
sorted out.
Yeah.
we'll lawyer all of them.
Yeah, all of them.
Stuart, didn't I read in your presentation, wasn't there, you met with the county association
Yes.
manager, right?
yeah, Miriam, yeah, we met.
Remember right, he did agreed with the proposal, correct?
Yeah, yeah, they agree with us, and so does our OSHA consultants that we've been meeting with. I've got their feedback too, and they agree.
Seems like it would just be simpler to say to the public, because of the bridge, till the new bridge is finished, that Moortalk Park is just closed to the public. I mean, it just seems like that would make more sense than say, this side's open, can't go on that side, and don't go over there. I don't know. I mean, I hate to close it, but on the other hand,
I don't know how you'd enforce it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
It's hard to enforce now.
yes.
You know.
What's really gonna be tough when they go up there at Lynchburg and 89 and put in.
Exactly.
You know.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I mean, there's no stopping that.
The river don't start in Danbury.
No. No. And them folks is coming that way, so.
So what's gonna happen?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
we'll find out the hard way.
Well, I don't think that's.
Search and rescue.
Oh, here we go again.
Close further than they thought.
I don't think that would be a problem as much as be picking tourists in one place.
Yep.
Another question I have is, if we do close it, one side or both sides, would that be a good time to do some things to the park while it's closed that we haven't, I don't guess we've discussed anything yet, but it would give an opportunity to do some fixing up in there or tree work or whatever needs to be done? Be a good time to do it. Okay. We've actually, last year we approved in the budget to pave or add another parking lot on the lower side. I've been in touch with DOT on that, and that's coming. So it would be a good time if it's closed to do that while they're there. It would work good. How long does it take to build the new bridge? What's the schedule?
16 to 18 months.
I'm thinking a year or so, right around a year is kind of what I've been told.
Have you talked to the business owners?
I've had one to reach out to me, but I have not specifically called any. But one has reached out regarding the tubing, and I kind of told him, there's a lot of unknowns. I don't know what to tell him, at the current time. I just don't know.
Well, we need to decide something pretty quick because they will start showing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt like too, if equipment's sitting down there, if these people, they'll climb out of a tree and hang a rope in a tree and swing and carry on, they'll be, I just don't want anybody on equipment.
Yeah.
If that gate's shut, and then it takes us out of the equation.
If the gate is shut and we took our measures to say it's closed, but they go in anyway, at least we're not liable because we did our measures to try to keep them out.
Some information need to be put out to the public on whenever you close access, because it changes the whole ball game. I mean, whose responsibility is that?
Felt like we would get it on the county website if I could get a confirmed date from DOT, and then we can get it on the county website, you know, as quick as we can, the county Facebook, get it out there as many people as we can.
Council could put it on theirs.
Yep.
Could we put signs on because you know there's different entry points, as we were talking about earlier, when people slide into the Dan River to head that way. I just wonder if we should some kind of notification as they're opening their beer can and they're sliding their tube into the water. It says, you know, hey, it's not going to end well if you continue on.
Well, yeah, well, we may need to reach out to the sheriff's office and ask him to kind of keep an eye out too, if we go that route.
Does Robin know what we're doing up at the park? Is she aware of all this?
No, I have not specifically mentioned to her about closing the park yet. I wanted to get it in here, get it on discussion, see kind of everybody's thoughts before I got too far with it.
When do we need to decide?
Probably just between now and the next meeting, I think will be good.
Action at the next meeting?
Yeah, I think so.
On a side note, have we heard from DOT about the Lynchburg Bridge?
I have not.
You hadn't heard anything, have you, Amber?
I can give an update then.
Yeah, it might be good.
Yeah. I can get an update.
It's not starting this year.
It's not.
It was a year out.
I thought they said it'd be after September.
Good. Anything else? Thanks. Hey, Jamie.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
So, the manager's office and I have been working together we wanted to clearly define our expectations for eligible employees to use county vehicles. So we have revamped our vehicle use policy and kind of put everything into one package that involves the use of a county vehicle, even when you go into accidents involving a county vehicle. I don't know if you all have had time to review the policy. If you have many questions.
We'll try to help when we can.
Yeah.
You want to take questions first, or you just want to talk about it? Or
Yeah,
what?
we can take the questions first.
Did we not have a policy before?
We had a few segments of policies in our current handbook pertaining to the use of county vehicles. It was not very clear, and it wasn't very detailed. So we wanted to, like I said, we wanted to put everything together and try to make it black and white. We're trying to better protect the county and our employees when it comes to vehicles.
So, my first question is, and maybe you've got it somewhere that you discuss this in another policy, but when an employee is driving a vehicle and involved in a traffic accident, collision, so there's a list of things like number one, call your supervisor, and then it was like 3 or 4 more steps, such as filling out a form. Does it? All the policies that I've ever been involved in, and I've been involved in a lot, writing the policies and also defending them, is it, if you're involved in a collision, the first thing we're worried about, of course, are injuries. So do we need to specify maybe a little bit that I think it will help Ty down the road too. If our policy includes, hey, check and make sure if there's any injuries, because I do want our supervisor to come, but if someone is bleeding or hurt, I want 911 called right away. Then you can call your supervisor. And then we do need to mention that they don't need to admit any type of fault. In other words, it's okay to be compassionate, but you don't need to get in an argument with the other. And I guess the way we used to frame it in our policy was that, after you call 911, after you notified your supervisor, is make sure that, you keep your comments professional with the other motorist. Because number one, you don't want to say something that's going to be misconstrued or start another argument.
Right. So, again, our current policy involving accidents and injuries is not as detailed like you're talking about. So, if we were going to do something like that, we would have to revise that policy.
I think we can easily add provisions in to this.
Because I just think that our employees need to be trained. I mean, they need to be, what we want them to do, we just kind of have to, I think we just have to put it in there, and then it gets locked in their head.
Right.
Second thing is on take-home vehicles. Mm-hmm. Specifically when it comes to the sheriff's office, what I want to make sure, or at least talk with the sheriff to make sure that he's got a little bit of latitude when it comes to if, they're the detectives, we're a small county, we got to make sure, and I know we don't have a full-time emergency response team here in Stokes County. I want to make sure in certain events that where we have to do mass mobilization at 2:00 in the morning, that our sheriff's deputies can get in their car, which houses all their equipment. They don't have to drive down here and download and then go somewhere else.
I'm of a like mind to that. I think I chose to recommend language in here that allowed me to have that conversation with the sheriff to specifically approve the right set of people to have take-home vehicles.
Yeah, and I'm good with that. I just want to make sure that latitude and that communication, goes on, because, it's even with the fires that went on, traffic control becomes an issue, and you're in a small county. I mean, they got maybe 3 or 4 deputies on a shift, and that takes up one, takes up a lot of deputies. So I just want to make sure we don't hamper the efficiency of the sheriff's office.
Right. No, I'm pretty sure the language in here provides for every deputy that's assigned to patrol to have a take-home vehicle.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned detectives though too,
right.
Because they're whatever they call them here. They're ERT, they're SWAT team, they're emergency, whatever. It's made up of different people. There's not that many deputies in Stokes County. So like in a hostage situations, it takes quite a few people to get out there, and if you have an effective emergency response team with a negotiator, and then we're in the level of technology, at least we're supposed to be there, to where they can be popping their laptops when they get on scene, and they can be pulling in the satellite images and floor plans and whatever for the command center. So, but I'll leave that, you and the sheriff. But I just wanted to make sure that it's not just a deputy for road patrol; it's other certain.
Right. I didn't mean to suggest that my intent would be to limit it to the patrol, but I mean that's the start point for the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question
Yes.
Well, I think there's a conflict there with the sheriff's statutory authority.
I think that our position on this is that they are county vehicles. They're not sheriff's office vehicles. And so our board has the authority to direct their appropriate use. It's a resource.
Well, are they assigned to the sheriff's department?
Yes.
Well, they are a resource for the sheriff to use in the management and control of the sheriff's department.
You could help me with the statutory language that backs that up. I'm all ears. I haven't been able to find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I did some research. Of course, 153A 103, I think, gives the sheriff the right to hire and fire and supervise his employees.
Right.
And there's a North Carolina Supreme Court case, Young v. Bailey, which is 2016, which involved a lawsuit by an employee of the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office who sued for wrongful discharge and claimed that she was entitled to the protection of the county personnel policy. And the Supreme Court, in that case, and I'll just read from the holding in the court, says the office of sheriff is constitutional. The sheriff is elected by the people and alone is responsible for carrying out his or her official duties. The sheriff may not delegate to another person final responsibility for discharging his official duties. In addition, the sheriff has singular authority over his or her deputies and employees and is responsible for their actions. Under North Carolina law, each sheriff has the exclusive right to hire, discharge, and supervise the employees in his office. We conclude that a sheriff's office is not a program or department of a county and agree with the consistent holdings of the Court of Appeals that the deputy sheriff or employee of a sheriff's office is not a county employee. And it goes on to say, because the county lacks any authority to supervise or control the details of the work performed by employees in that office, because the sheriff's office is not a program or department of a county. So, I think dictating how the sheriff uses his vehicles that are assigned to the sheriff's department conflicts with his statutory authority, according to the statute and the Supreme Court on it.
Well, I mean, everybody knows I bleed and breathe public safety, especially law enforcement. And the sheriff, in my opinion, does have a lot of control when it comes to his employees. But I don't think what this policy is doing is restricting the use of his vehicles. I think what it does is provide accountability that the appropriate people are taking home cars. And this is the reason why I say that, is because the county, they got several obligations, but just one, just off the top of my head, is that it is a fringe benefit. Will you agree with that? It's a fringe benefit, according to the IRS, to drive a police vehicle or city vehicle, county vehicle, governmental vehicle, I can put it, home, unless it meets certain requirements. Right. And they stipulate what those requirements are. So if we want to let the sheriff make those type of decisions of where, then we need to know, because our finance people need to send them, was it a 1099 or 1098, or it's a taxable form.
Withholding.
So, I mean, you got to go, if you're going to do it, you got to do it both ways. And I think what the manager's trying to do is try to kind of just give some accountability to the county, but at the same time, we don't get dinged down the road if, you know, the federal government or the IRS would come and say, hey, look, you know, you're not providing the right paperwork to these employees, because it is taxable as a fringe benefit.
Well, who would make the decision as far as like take-home vehicles? Who would make the decision as to whether or not a specific sheriff's office employee was allowed to take home a vehicle? You or the sheriff?
I would.
Well, yeah, I think that's a problem.
Can I ask a question? So if we've got an administrative person with, Jamie, do we have like administrative coded positions? It's in one, let's say DSS, and then we have one in the sheriff, and it's the same administrative kind of position?
Yes.
So are we saying one of those, we can provide a car for one of those to go back and forth home so they don't have to buy a car, and then the other one is prohibited from doing that? Is that what we're saying?
Well,
Because of the sheriff's authority?
According to the Supreme Court holding, sheriff's employees are not county employees.
Okay.
They are sheriff's employees under the supervision and control of the sheriff.
I'd just like to step in. I have briefly reviewed the high points of the court case that you're talking about there. And none of the language that you just read pertains to the use of county property. It's about supervising employees.
Right.
They are two separate and distinct things.
I don't think that would. Because, you know, if you're supervising employees and you decide for the protection of the citizens of Stokes County, and it would be in the best interest of the citizens for a specific deputy to take home a car overnight if they're on 24-hour call, then I think that's part of the supervisory process.
I ain't worried about deputies. I'm worried about all these other people that don't have a need to respond from home. They're just going to use this car to go back and forth to work. I'm afraid that's what we're going to get caught with. I mean, and if the sheriff has the authority to do that, I mean, I don't know who's going to decide that, but if he has authority to do that, he can do that at his own risk, I guess. But I tell you, the voters ain't going to like it.
He's the one who is responsible.
Yeah, the voters ain't going to like it because they don't like governments.
Pass out them withholding forms, a lot of them ain't gonna wanna take that car home.
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
They will come down.
I mean, it is not the role of government to give people cars to drive back and forth home unless there's a really need for it in order to do the services we're supposed to provide.
I don't disagree with that. My only issue is who has the authority to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
But we're leasing them and we're paying the lease on it, the county, right?
That's right.
It seems like that would give us some say over if we have a policy, a county policy dictating what that's stated in here, and they don't meet that criteria, even if they work for the sheriff's department, it seems like it's contradictory to each other.
Well, you control the money. You control the sheriff's budget.
We control how many cars.
And you control how many cars.
Okay.
Well, that's the other way we can accomplish it. But is that really in everybody's best interest?
I mean,
I would
doing it with a club.
I was. I would like us to give an opportunity for our manager and the sheriff to work out what is an emergency situation, what vehicles need to be in there. There is no way, if there's any kind of administrative or civilian person driving a car home that is not, not sworn and not, I don't know how you would justify it. And then my expectation would be that we would issue, coming from finance, it's got to come, It's a fringe benefit. You're going to pay taxes on it. That's what the law is.
Well, I agree that there should be no justification for an employee, county employee, sheriff's employee, to take a car home unless it's job related and there's some valid reason to have that car available.
And it has to be according to law. It can't just be, you know, it's got to fit.
Yeah, the only issue is who has the authority to make that decision? The county manager or the sheriff? So, you know, if you and the sheriff can reach an agreement on that, that's fine. That's great. But I don't want to create a potential conflict that's going to create a problem in the future. You just need to be aware of what I see as a potential conflict.
Has there been any clear court precedents that answers this question?
There is a 2009 letter from an assistant attorney general in North Carolina.
That's not a court precedent, though.
No, it's not a court precedent. And it's an advisory opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But it dealt with this specific issue. And the question, Lincoln County adopted a vehicle use policy.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave the county manager the authority to determine the use of the sheriff's vehicles. And the letter, the opinion of that assistant attorney general was that the sheriff was not bound by that policy.
It's an opinion.
Because the sheriff had the authority.
Right, but we're still talking about opinion, right? So there's no settled law on this question.
No, not this fact situation. No court case that I can find.
I have some other questions not sheriff related when we get to them. So you finished with the? Yeah, I'm finished. Okay. First of all, I think the policy is really well done as a whole. Once we sort out whatever issues we have with it, but I think it's very much needed. One of the most things I get questioned about is why is this person out on Sunday afternoon with this county car doing this and doing that, and people, why are they at the Walmart? I've investigated numerous cases. Most of the time, the employees were doing something they should have been doing. But it does generate, the neighborhood really watches it. So I have some specific questions, like if an employee is at work and they're going to training like in Raleigh tomorrow and they're going to drive a county car and their house is between work and Raleigh, would this policy allow them to leave their private car here, take that car home and then go on to Raleigh?
Yeah, there's a provision in here for case-by-case
I thought so.
overnight exceptions.
I thought so. I just want to double check, make sure I understood it. Secondly, it used to, we had some reasons to keep some of the DSS cars unmarked. And I read your part on the marking of the cars, and I think it's kind of important to mark everything you can for obvious reasons. But are there any other than the Sheriff's Department, are there other departments like DSS that might need to keep some unmarked cars? Y'all thought about that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I'll give you some more background on that later about why they needed to do it, or why they used to need to do it.
I don't think the general statutes allows it.
Oh, okay. Okay. The next thing I had is, I think you guys have already done this because I've asked about it before, but I think it's really important to have numbers on all the cars so that whenever the public sees them somewhere, they can catch that number and ask us. That way I think you've already probably got that. If not, at least most of them probably do.
I know they own the sheriff cars.
Yeah. And then I said, has legal reviewed this? We don't need to discuss that any further at the moment. And that's it. That's all I have.
Unless there are other aspects of this that.
Otherwise, I think it's real close to being a great policy whenever we get these little nitpicks figured out here.
Wayne, you got any questions?
Well, I like the one on the distraction of driving because me being in emergency services, I get to see it a lot. So I'm not going to specify which department, but I see a lot of county employees, emergency vehicles, doing emergency traffic, talking on phones, and that's very dangerous. I see them online, so that's something that's in the policy right there. It is. I read it, so I hope they know the policy if something happens, because in most instances, if you have a wreck, first thing that the highway patrol will ask you for is your cell phone. He's gonna see. He's gonna ask what time that wreck happened. He's gonna look. He'd tell you've been talking on that cell phone while you were driving. So that would be a bad thing to happen if it was one of our county vehicles was at fault, was doing something like that. But I ain't gonna get on the sheriff's side. Brad done asked that question about the amount of cars. I done pondered that now too. So, but that was one of the biggest thing I had. But you got it in your policy. So I'm like, Rick, it's a good policy. I read through it. I think everything's good with it.
Yeah, I don't have any questions right now. I think it's clearly defines a lot of things that were not defined in the other policy on a lot of open-ended stuff. So it should be pretty cut and dry. And I think that our county manager and the sheriff can look at some of this use and agree on how these vehicles need to be utilized, and you know, if it's an area where we see we don't need as many vehicles as we thought, then that's good. It's a cost savings for our county if we can. It's DOGE right here. That's what we're doing.
Agree.
So.
I got one other thing I'd really like to say about one of the sheriff's deputies that we had a call this weekend, and I really commend this guy for what he done. Dispatch called him over the radio, want him to call her. In reference to this call he was going on, this gentleman was running emergency traffic, and he told her that. He told her that 3 times. I will not call you. I'm running emergency traffic. So I really commend him for that, you know, for not picking his cell phone up. Which any information she had, she could have gave it to him over that radio. And I'm sure that was addressed by the sheriff today, because that's very dangerous. When I'm driving a fire truck, the cell phone's the last thing from my mind. You know, just laying over on the dog box of the truck, that's where it lays. You know, I thought he done a very good job this weekend by coming back and doing what he done. That's protecting the county and himself. You know.
Good policy, and now all of y'all know why I don't take a county vehicle. I always drive my personal vehicle and pay for my gas.
I pass, you go down Fourth.
That's right. Well done.
I drove my personal vehicle too one time, was scared to death. They come in and said all the cars been broke into out in the parking lot where I was at.
That's right.
Thank goodness I took my wife's car and not my truck.
Alrighty, no other questions?
Are we moving this to action next meeting or discussion next meeting?
I think, this is my opinion, I think we just need to move it to discussion and give Jeff and Joey time to sit down and talk and see if they can come to some kind of agreement or, you know, something that fits into our policy here.
Move it to action next time.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, that's why you're here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next on our discussion list is animal control ordinance. Tommy.
Good evening. As y'all have seen, we rewrote the whole county ordinance for animal control. We didn't touch just one part of it, we just completely redone it. Since I've been here a year and a half, about 15 months now, we've seen what it goes. So what I done was, I took Surrey County ordinance along with 2 or 3 other county ordinances, looked at them, read them, put them into what I thought best fit Stokes County. I submitted it to my county manager, Jeff, and to Assistant County Manager, Ms. Brown, to Ty and Jennifer. We went back and forth on three or four different times on this. Talked to several other people about it, got everybody's opinion, and we put those changes in here to come up with this, what I presented to y'all. I think it's a very practical ordinance. A lot of the changes are there, it's practical changes. A lot of changes are common sense, and everything in the ordinance is enforceable. It's pretty simple, it's self-explanatory. Ty and them done a lot of changes to make it more self-explanatory, Jennifer. So we wouldn't have to receive calls, what does this mean, what does that mean? That it's self-explanatory in the ordinance when you read it. I think it's a very needed ordinance for this county. I think it helps us at Animal Control to do a lot for the community as far as aggressive dogs that we don't have now, to try to help prevent it getting to a potential dangerous dog or a dangerous dog. We can sort of start putting restrictions before we get somebody seriously injured or whatever. It changed the fines a little bit. We left it to what some other counties had, so the fines changed a little bit on that, towards different penalties, and issuing criminal summons and stuff like that, where now we went several steps to a civil. Other than that, I'm open for questions on it.
Brad, go ahead and start.
Y'all. So, the reason that y'all you looked at the ordinances, because you're seeing to where a lot of stuff was not enforceable, right? If we, based on the current ordinance or the proposed ordinance, is that you had difficulty in being able to, in confidence, in court. Am I
correct? It's sort of like in the old ordinance that said bring them in under 32 degrees freezing temperature. Well, if you got a husky, that husky's finally happy at 32 degrees and colder. You know, he's not. That's his world. He loves it. So it's not defined. If a dog has adequate shelter and stuff, the dog's fine in all temperatures. If it's got adequate shelter and water, it's fine.
That's not true.
So that's why it's in there. And like I said, some of the other stuff, this one here is basically what Surrey County put, and all the city of Mount Airy, Elk, and Docks all adopted back in 2016. So except for just some minor changes in it, this is pretty much what Surrey County has, which Ty and Jennifer can vouch for that. That's what they've got. But that's basically one of the reasons why we changed it.
Let him talk, please, without the rumble in the back. I got one question.
Yes, sir.
The point she made about the shade, was that taken out?
It's whatever. I didn't touch that part.
Can the shade thing be added back without creating a right? And I don't have to have
It says adequate shelter provides some shade from the direct rays of the sun and assure adequate ventilation and light. So that means the dog shelter, whatever, gives shade without them being inside it. So it has to give adequate. So if the dog house won't give adequate shade, then they have to have some kind of adequate shade for dogs. And a lot of times your cruelty to animals will cover this also. That you gotta.
And that's what I know. When I read the ordinance, there's a lot of things that, and I've said that the last time we were going round and round with the ordinance. It's the state has statutes that cover it.
Correct. It was brought up about the log chain. Well, that's a state statute. That's nothing. We don't need to. I'm not going to charge a county ordinance on that. I'm going to charge a state statute. So I don't need a county ordinance to tell me that's wrong. That's state statute. So that's cruelty to animals. That's state statute. I mean, that's in there. You can't sit there and log it in. But we got in there 10% of the dog's body weight. It can't be nothing over. I think it's 10% of the dog's body weight when we put it in there. So On that.
Yeah, I got a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
The Animal Advisory Board Committee that we have current right now in the county, did they look at this new policy?
No, sir.
Well, why do we have an advisory board committee if they wasn't aware of the policy?
I wrote this and handed it to the county manager and assistant manager and attorneys to get approved.
Answer my question. Why wouldn't the advisory board give a copy of it? I mean, that's why they were put in place. Same thing as a board I got at the fire department, same thing. And the policy that we currently have in place couldn't have been done long ago because I see Mr. Andy Nicholson was chair at the time. So are we gonna change the policy every 4 or 5 years?
Well, I think that's been bits and pieces. I don't think it's been the whole policy. I think it's been just bits and pieces here and there.
It was probably amended.
It's like if you put one little thing in there, you had to amend it for that date.
Right.
So it wasn't like the whole thing was redone. It was just one little amendment, and they changed it. So like if you added just one thing in there, then you would have to be amended to it.
I don't have no further questions.
Yeah, I got a few things here. My question is, with this new policy, it looks like that we're wanting to change the makeup of the advisory board or go with a new advisory board. So, but we created the other advisory board for a reason, and if you look at our policy, it kind of outlines the purpose of the advisory board, our current policy. And I was looking at section 3 on this Animal Control Advisory Board creation and purpose. And it says advise the Animal Control Department with respect to rabies control and other animal related matters, hear any appeals, and then just very, I guess, it doesn't really spell it out. It just says carry out any other functions that might be established under this ordinance, which is pretty wide open. But then when you go over to the Animal Control Advisory Board bylaws, it more specifically states what their duties would be, and that is to hear appeals. And it says to review and evaluate on an ongoing basis animal-related issues, needs, and services in Stokes County. To report to the Board of Commissioners upon request on animal services issues within the county. And so that's the bylaws that we're being presented with. So they're not in alignment with each other. I mean, they don't, the policy and then the bylaws are not really aligned, in my opinion, of what the duties are specified.
You recommend we just take the language from the bylaws and move it over to the ordinance?
Yeah, that's what I would do, because I think that more clearly defines what the advisory board is established for, what their purpose is. So my question is, can you just, are we going to have to dissolve the current board and reestablish it, or what would the purpose of that even be? I don't know. I think that's where we're going to run into some issues here with all of this. You know, to me, the advisory board is a system of checks and balances in a way, and it's good advice on from people that I'm sure know more than I do about the subject. But I would like to see this advisory board be able to work with animal control and the employees there to look at what is actually, you know, best for our county and animals and all of this. So I don't know. I mean, it's always going to be a rub no matter what we do here. I mean,
I think you've got some insights on kind of recent history with the advisory board and how well it's working.
It's not working. We meet, we talk about the same stuff. I've mentioned about seeing if there's grants out there for veterinarians to come to this county because we're short of it. Nothing comes about it. It's even one of the people who attend said, I've been to 3 or 4 of these meetings and we never get nothing accomplished. we talk about the same stuff over and over and we don't get nothing accomplished. I do think moving it down to a 5 board member, meet twice a year, and I'm not on the board because I have to report appeals to them or whatever, so it keeps me off of it, but I can come and say twice a year, here's some issues here's some stuff I've been seeing. If y'all could look into it and get back with me on some advice or whatever, and plus it gives people in the community twice a year to come and say, hey, we're seeing these issues out there, whatever. Also, we know, I've made it known since I started, my number, my email, my door's open for anybody who wants to walk in with issues and say, hey, Director, we're having these issues. How can we help to do this? It's there, it's open. I think by doing this here with the 5 member, we can maybe accomplish something with it, meet twice a year, and maybe come to some goals for the county and move forward.
Can you also comment on the attendance kind of history?
Attendance history is back and forth. Usually it's about 3 consistent, 4 consistent. Then you have some that's never there. We got open members that's not there. So the board is big now that people don't show up. Members don't show up and stuff. So I think if you get it down to twice a year to just a 4-panel, one's going to be appointed by the health director who will stay chairman. That way we always have the county employee who's over it, who keeps everything functioning. And then you get it down to 4 members of the county coming in from different geographic areas, that it will be well managed and well taken care of and maybe be able to accomplish something.
Got anything, Rick? I'm trying to think of something. So do we need to do something with the old board and then before we?
Yes, sir. So my suggestion would be I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, sir. My suggestion would be if you adopt this ordinance with the new bylaw stuff, that the old board would be dissolved and that they could resubmit to be on this board, and you would pick, then the commissioner would pick the 4 new people. They would serve out the remainder of this year, and then come January of 2026, then we would reappoint 4 people. They'd have to resubmit, so they would serve the remainder of this year, then they would be reappointed or have to resubmit for January to serve a 2-year term.
That cause you to have to dissolve the current board?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is that a separate action, a separate topic to do that, or?
I think it would. I mean, if you approved it, then we'd have an action item for an upcoming agenda to dissolve and reestablish.
Oh, okay, okay. How often do you meet now? Once a month?
It varies. We've met, I think, January, March, and we're going to have one in April. So now they're meeting, it's recommended, I think in the bylaws 4 times a year, I think, but now we've been meeting about 6 or 7. Something like that is what's scheduled for this year.
That is not true, Tommy. You know it.
So,
Even at the last meeting.
so that's where we're at on that. Like I said, it's when you look at the ordinances overall, come about, like I said, me and Jennifer had a lot of discussion about it back and forth, and we looked at 3 or 4 different county ordinances, and this one comes to a good medium with the county and with other ordinances around our area. And the wording is a lot similar to the counties around our area. So it wasn't made up by me, it was taken from other ordinances. I didn't come in here and write what I thought had to be here, because I know a lot of things, but my right name is going to be one of the great things, so I pulled it from other ordinances around our area. And like I said, a lot of it's general statute. A lot of, like the potential dangerous dog is pretty much verbatim, as the county manager says, and Jennifer and Ty, that is verbatim general statute. So.
I can't remember, but I think I asked before,
current county ordinances that if we cite somebody on a violation, that's civil?
Yes, sir. And it will stay civil now, but it gives us the option to move to other directions. Right now, sort of the way it states is we have to do civil. It don't give us an option in there, sort of way it reads. This here gives us an option. Sort of back to the law enforcement part. It gives us the discretion to do what we think is right, which we don't want to charge somebody criminally for a dog run loose. We want it to be a civil thing, unless it's a repetitive thing. Then at that point in time, we would go do a criminal summons on them. So that's the way we do it now. So it gives us a little bit more leeway in that. If it's one that's been we talked to and they just look at us, I don't care, I'm not tying mine. Well, we can just go ahead and go to, instead of doing it civil, then we can go to the criminal and not have to worry about it.
Chairman Wood, I'd like to speak for a moment briefly.
Not really. We're not going to pass or approve this. In my opinion,
Telling you is inaccurate.
I would like to know more about this committee. Is there a secretary? Is there a chairman?
Yes,
Who's in attendance? Who's got perfect attendance? No attendance?
Mr. Chairman.
Tommy didn't come to the meeting.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we move this to close and we discuss this later on.
Put it on discussion at the next
Yep,
meeting.
next meeting.
Yeah, it's only been out a day or two, so
Yeah.
give more people more time to look
I'd
at
like
it.
to read over this as well.
No, we're
too,
not
what we got
trying to
now.
railroad. And Tommy, I appreciate what you've done on this either. This is not a slap in the face to you. It's just a lot of stuff quick.
Yeah, it's. I mean, and let's talk about the size. A lot of it is the exotic animals, which is like 15 pages, 10 pages, 8 pages, something like that. So a lot of it's exotic animals. Then a lot of it is your potentially dangerous and dangerous dogs. So that's a lot of the pages on it.
Hopefully we can give and take and come up with something, because I better shut my mouth before I say something.
Late subject.
All right, we're okay moving this to discussion next
Meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, county fees and charges schedule, Amber.
Thank you. So the manager's office, we are presenting a comprehensive Stokes County fees and charges schedule. Currently, the departments listed in that schedule all have their own fee schedules. Most of them have them posted on their own web pages on the county site, and they're all various formats. So what this fee and charges schedule does is it creates a little bit more uniformity, and we can have it in one place for the public and employees to access. And that way it's in one document. We can also bring it annually on an annual basis and get the commissioners to approve it if there are any changes for current fees. So the ones that we are recommending increases for to bring them current are EMS, environmental health, the fire marshal's office, and the health department. And so the recommended fee increases for each of those, and I'll just go over those. These are from the department heads. We got these recommendations from them as far as what their current operations and level of service is. So for EMS, it's a recommended increase of $280,000 with those changes. Environmental health, $144,000 increase. Health clinic, $326,000. And both of the environmental health and the health clinic are contingent on being fully staffed, of course, so that may decrease a little bit from those projections just based off of if we haven't hired somebody. And on the provider side in the health clinic, but also if we're not fully staffed in environmental health. And then the fire marshal's office, $8,000 for a total projected increase of $758,000 if this is approved. And
that's just a projection.
Yeah, that's just a projection. It's a conservative projection, obviously. And like I said, the environmental health and the health clinic will be the biggest determinative factor probably for those two, because, again, it's contingent on them being fully staffed. They don't see any issues with the providers at the health clinic, but, of course, environmental health, it just depends. There's a lot of movement in that department. And then, same thing with, really all of them. It just depends on how many call calls for service they get and how much they respond, how many applications and reports they get, for each of those departments, how many medical calls EMS runs. So, I mean, it's all really contingent. This is based off of historical data. This is the best estimate.
My question is, have some of these fees just not been looked at in a very long time? Because there are some big jumps in some areas and other areas hardly any jump. But this whole, what did they use as their basis to do these changes? Do they look at other counties and what they're doing?
Yeah, they did.
In general, yes. Many other counties.
Especially the ones in our region. The usual ones. I hate to say usual ones, but Surrey, Yadkin, Davie, Rockingham. Even for sites, just for geographical comparison.
So any new construction plan has to go through the fire marshal's office for review?
That's right.
And other departments it has to go through for review too, like
Planning
and zoning.
Yeah.
So there's a fee there, and there's a fee at the fire marshal's office.
Right.
And is there a fee in environmental health too, probably, for new construction?
If that work is required by the
for a well or
development, yeah.
They've done no new construction. So these things.
And in all those cases, the statutes limit us with regard to the fees that we can charge. We can't charge more than it provides us to provide the service.
Right.
But the general idea is that we should be charging the users of our service for that service rather than distributing the cost across all county residents and property owners.
Well, I mean, for an example, I know we've been a little short-handed in planning and zoning and environmental health, probably. And if you haven't looked at these fees in a long time and you bring them up to current what other counties are charging, it looks like what you make up, what you will make in addition to what over and above what we've been getting would offset the cost of having to hire additional employees that we know are needed, and that would provide better customer service in the long run.
True.
Am I looking at that right?
Yeah.
Trying to justify.
I don't know if it will make up the entire cost of hiring, additional employees, but it certainly helps.
Okay. There was one. Go ahead. If somebody else has a question.
I have just a couple. Mr. Chairman, is that all right?
Yes.
First of all, I think it's a great idea putting all this into one big package. You think, Jeff, you'll just kind of now look at it during the budget cycle annually?
Yeah, I think I would expect that come about next January, you'll see a recommendation for any changes for the coming year, so that we can build it into next year. Not this coming year's budget, but the planning process for the following year.
Okay, great.
And every January-ish timeline.
Right. I looked through and it seemed like everything in there increased but one thing, and I was just curious why it didn't, and it was tattoos. Tattoo.
Yeah, I saw that. It actually went down a little.
And down $50. What is that for? That's for like inspecting them or something?
Yes,
tattoo people?
Environmental health has to inspect that.
I thought it was for a tattoo.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what that is. I could ask specifically if you're interested.
They have to be inspected.
I was just kind of curious when everything else went up and that one went down, but it's not an urgent matter or anything. So
Well, I assume maybe it's because there's
maybe it was out of a line.
I don't know.
I do know that the health department, I want to say that they reviewed data from all the counties. Was that true?
What, health department?
Yeah.
I don't know. They may have, but I know
it was a bunch of counties.
The sheet I saw, had like I said, the usual ones, all the ones I just listed a while ago. And this is like the average of those. Is what they recommended.
So the planning and zoning, this is the new fee schedule, but I don't think it has the old prices on here.
Planning and zoning. None of those fees have changed.
Oh, none of them changed?
Yeah, all the ones that aren't redlined are the same as what we've already approved. Yeah.
All right.
We improved those not long ago, right?
Yeah, and that's why there's no increase.
Okay,
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Same thing with animal control. We just increased that not too long ago either. So that's the same. Yeah.
Only other question was, was whether this matches surrounding counties. You already answered that. So, I like the concept of people that are getting the services paying the fees versus having to raise property taxes on everybody. So I don't really have any objection to these increases because, like I said, it'll hopefully positively affect our property tax rate. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else?
Is it gonna be on action
Next time?
That's fine if that's what y'all prefer. Action next meeting.
That's fine. You gonna clean it up a little, this cross out.
Okay, you want me to? I just did it like that so you could see the changes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I know what you was doing, but.
okay.
Clean one next
I'll bring it back with the
Just bring a clean copy next time.
copy.
Yeah, because my eyes played tricks on me. I said 2,000, it was 90 cents, but you moved it to $2.
Yeah, I'll clean it up.
Good to post it all on the website when you get it done too, so everybody can look at it in one spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Action next meeting.
You got a question?
Yeah, I got a question on the budget amendment. I'd like to, ask about.
Which one?
Well, I went right by, well.
That's okay, because we just
I'm
said
sorry.
consent, we didn't.
I'm sorry I missed it, but, after having meetings with, Jeff, our county manager, I learned one thing from him. Could you be a little bit more specific? It's like the, thing here for the, Stokes County Fire Commissioners to pay off on that, loan. It just says fire equipment. And if I didn't know, I already know what it is, but the general public, if they was to ask me that question I didn't know, you need to be a little more specific when you spend this kind of money for just fire equipment. But they should have put in there to pay off a fire truck or fire engine instead of just
Fair
fire
point.
equipment.
Yeah, fair point.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In case one of y'all was to get asked, you know.
Yeah.
Man, that's a lot of money, you know, but you say, well, it's to pay off a fire truck to reduce the debt load.
For a fire truck, it's a lot of money.
That's about 3 good payments on one. So, but that's, you know, I just wanted to make sure that was, the general public knew that. That's what that kind of money was used for. And I commend the guys for what they're doing, trying to pay the service debt down, you know. But I'm sorry about it. I just wanted to.
No problem.
I just wanted to make sure that was.
I have a related subject he triggered my thought process on. Jeff, I think I might have mentioned this to you, but do you like the format of our budget amendments, or would you have something that's better?
Tammy said no.
Tammy, it would make it easier to read, that, you know, the way you read it.
Yeah, it took me a while to get comfortable with them. I'm comfortable with them now, but I can understand where.
That's just something I wouldn't
It's
mind
not-
you guys looking at.
Of course, nothing budget related in accounting is intuitive, so there's only so much you can do, but.
Like narrative, like Wayne's talking about, of
Yeah.
what the budget amendment is actually doing is the one weak spot that I think.
More like the cover letter, the explanation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, maybe that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you, because I have actually called Amber before the meeting, said, could you explain this to me? So I know what, you know, I don't want to vote yes on something I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
We have a couple of examples that we're looking at to use to replace the one we currently have.
Oh, good.
So, stay tuned.
Sounds good.
Hang around a while.
Future agenda. Okay, that takes us to action agenda, Parks and Recreation Steering Committee appointments. We need to poll the board, and we can just say Liz as present. As presented, excuse me.
We decided just to go ahead and do them all, didn't we?
If that's what you agree with, I mean, that's completely fine. There's nothing set in stone. So.
You want us chime in, Tori? We agreed to do all 11 unless you change your mind. Yes. You gave 2 thumbs up.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah, there's it'll be 13-1. I think it'll be 13 once we, with Tori and Stewart.
Oh, okay.
The county employees on there is what I mean,
okay.
sorry. It'll just,
11 on the list.
I was just thinking list as presented would encompass them as well.
Okay.
That way it's official.
List as presented. Do I need to make a,
No, that's fine.
just say list as presented?
That's fine, yeah.
List has been presented.
List as presented.
List as presented.
List as presented.
Thank you. Unless you want to read them all. All right. All right, thank you.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Do it.
Second.
And thank you for your presence. You want me to come to you?